Do you ever go back to the place where you're supposed to belong and feel like a stranger? Like, technically it's home. Same national anthem, same passport, same country. But somehow it feels like you're standing in a room where everyone else has the manual and you don't. That's exactly how I felt when I came back to Korea, the country I'm from, but not the one that I felt at home in. I grew up in Kenya and I went to an American international school, so I spoke more English than Korean. And I hung out with people from all over the world. Americans, Koreans, Dutch, British, Indians, Ethiopians, you name it. And we were all just kind of everywhere and nowhere all at once. So we all just kind of clicked. In that environment, identity was flexible. No one really questioned where you were from. You know, it wasn't really weird to speak with a mix of different accents. We were all just kind of like figuring everything out together, just trying to make sense of ourselves. But the moment that I came back to Korea, all of that flexibility kind of disappeared. Suddenly, my Korean had an accent. My mannerisms were too Western. My opinions were too direct. People will kind of look at me and be like, "You're Korean, right? But like, why do you sound like that?" And I didn't have any explanation. I didn't know what to say. Because how do you explain that your roots and your upbringing grew in two very different soils? So I wanted to belong really badly. And I started copying, I started observing people, just kind of shrinking myself. I watched how people talk, how they bowed to each other, how they kept their tone soft, how they avoided confrontation. And I tried to do the same, but it just kind of felt like acting, like I was playing a role in a drama that I didn't even audition for. How do I even explain this? I felt like I was too much in one room and really not enough in another. So wherever I go, I was too Korean to be fully foreign, and I was a little too foreign to be fully Korean, if that makes sense. And I realized that there's this kind of weird loneliness in that, because people expect you to be fluent, not just in language, but also in culture. And when you're not, they don't really see you as someone navigating unfamiliar waters. They kind of see you as someone who should have already known how to swim. And that was pretty difficult to take because I'm not supposed to know every rule, you know? I'm not supposed to be this like all-knowing person that is good wherever he goes. And those things are pretty subtle, but it cut deep. Like little comments like, "Your English is pretty good for someone who didn't grow up there." Or maybe like, "You're Korean, you should probably know this." Those moments kind of made me second guess everything. Like I didn't really deserve to call this place home. But here's what I really learned after sitting with that discomfort for a while, that belonging isn't always about location. Sometimes it's about acceptance. I used to think that I had to choose either to be fully Korean or just accept being the outsider. But in the society that we live in, identity is very layered. It's fluid. And the more you try to flatten yourself into one definition, the more you lose the depth of who you really are. Now I realize I'm Korean. I'm also a third culture kid. I see myself as someone who's shaped by Nairobi sunsets and Seoul city lights. And none of that really cancels the other out. You don't have to fit perfectly to belong. Sometimes you just belong because you don't. I don't know if that makes sense. What did I just say? What was that? But the main point is, if you've ever felt foreign in your own country, if you were in a room full of people that look like you, but you felt like you're the odd one out, I just want to let you know that you're not broken, you're not confused, you're not too much or not enough. You're just layered, and that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to honor. Not many people get to have this privilege to be able to live abroad, have different experiences, and be surrounded by diverse people from a young age. That's not something that many people can experience, and you should be proud of that. I learned that home isn't always the place. Sometimes it's the version of you that held space for all the places that you've been, all the languages that you speak, all the versions of you that didn't fit neatly in a box. I want to remind you that you're not alone in this seemingly messy and beautiful in-between. And I want you to remember that you don't need to shrink to fit a place. Real belonging doesn't ask you to become someone else. It simply asks you to show up as you. Thank you guys for watching the video. You might not be able to tell, but this is very hot. This place, the weather nowadays is crazy. I hope you guys hydrate wherever you go. And I don't know, I just hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. I hope you guys are happy. I hope you guys are very proud of who you are. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.